I love the church. That's really how I want to begin this week. I just want to start off by saying I genuinely love the church. I live to serve the church. I do what I do because I believe that the bride is the hope of the world. I love the church. And I wrestle deeply with how it is that the church can be more and more effective in her ministry for the gospel. And as a Revelation scholar, I can't help but also think about the church quite often through the lens of the apocalypse, through the lens of John's letter to the 7 churches of Revelation. And for a long time, I've thought about the Western church, specifically in America, I've thought about it as being Laodicea. Laodicea is the 7th church in Revelation. It occurs in Revelation chapter 3. And Laodicea struggles with wealth. Laodicea struggles with relying so much on wealth that they actually don't have a need for God. And I thought, yes, that parallels the American church a lot because, my goodness, we are so incredibly wealthy that frankly, we don't need God for our daily bread. Now, I'm not saying if you are wealthy, then you don't rely on God. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if we choose to, if we really need daily bread, what we can do is go out and make more money. And there is a disadvantage that comes with being able to provide for your own needs that oftentimes we overlook, that oftentimes we just don't process. However, recently I've become more and more convinced that the American church is not so much struggling with its wealth, although I do think that is part of the issue. But to me, the American church parallels the church of Ephesus in Revelation chapter 2 the best. Revelation chapter 2, verse 1, "To the angel of the church in Ephesus write, these are the words of him who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and walks among the 7 golden lampstands. I know your deeds, your hard work, and your perseverance. I know that you cannot tolerate wicked people, that you have tested those who claim to be apostles but are not and have found them false." Did you catch out what the church of Ephesus is good at? "You have persevered and have endured hardships for my name and have not grown weary." Even later down in verse 6 he says, "But you have this in your favor. You hate the practices of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate." If you see what Jesus is complimenting the church of Ephesus on, is the church of Ephesus is really good at truth, really good at doctrine, really good at being able to figure out who are the false teachers and what is it that they are doing that is taking the church astray. They are able to probe the depths of orthodoxy to make sure that it is pristine and pure. They are good at truth. But listen to what Jesus says in verse 4. So you have this church of Ephesus who is amazing at truth, at getting the right answers. But listen to what he says in verse 4. "Yet I hold this against you. You have forsaken the love you had at first. Consider how far you have fallen. Repent and do the things you did at first. If you do not repent, I will come to you and will remove your lampstand from its place." Now this is what's interesting. Ephesus is getting all the right answers. They're very good at truth, and yet Jesus says, I still have this against you. You are using truth. Listen. You are using truth as a means by which to crucify those you disagree with. They are using truth as a weapon. They are sacrificing people on the altar of truth. Ephesus may get all the right answers, but because they are speaking the truth without love, Jesus says, I am about to remove your lampstand, Ephesus. Now, this was startling to me as I began to wrestle with it because I had spent my entire life wrestling with what are the right answers. I mean, I'm an educator. I teach college students here at Ozark Christian College. I mean, I put all of these lectures on the website for free because I desire to educate the church, because I genuinely believe that pure theology can lead to holy living. However, this is one of the things I was deeply convicted by John's letter in Revelation to the church of Ephesus. Shane, if you get all the right answers, but you don't actually communicate those answers through the love of Jesus Christ on the cross, you are wrong. I say this to my students all the time, especially during syllabus week. I say, listen, if you say the right thing, but you say it in the wrong way, at the wrong time, or you're the wrong person, guess what? You're wrong, even if what you said was right. Even if what you say is right, if you don't say it in the right way, if you don't say it with love, you're wrong. I mean, Jesus even looks at him and he says, whenever I found you, Ephesus, you were a mess. Remember whenever I found you? Remember your first love. Remember the depths of brokenness that I found you in. And yet, how did I treat you? Did I beat you over the head with it? Did I taunt you with it? Did I divide with you over it? No, I died for you. In the midst of our disagreement, I died for you. I preached a sermon once. You can find it on the website. I preached a sermon once where my dominant thought was this. You are only able to speak against the culture that you are willing to be crucified for. And if you are not willing to be crucified for the culture, then shut your mouth. My whole point was this. People always blame Jesus. They're going like, man, Jesus was out there speaking against the Pharisees. And he was saying all kinds of mean stuff to them. Jesus also died on the cross for those same Pharisees. So until we are willing to die for the people we are speaking against, we don't have a right to speak against them. Does truth matter? Absolutely. But the way you communicate the truth matters just as much. As a matter of fact, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love chapter, says it like this. Verse 2, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, if I know all truth, but I do not have love, I am nothing. This is my challenge for you this week. Don't just work to get the right answers. Work even harder to communicate those answers in the same way that God communicated his truth to us, namely through the cross. Until we are willing to be sacrificed for our culture, I think we just need to stop speaking against it and maybe just learning how to love it, even whenever it is our enemy. Love you guys. See you next week.